itself. So obviously it's an emulator of an iPad, so I won't be able to do everything that I could normally do, like scanning. I'm going to have to type in everything manually instead of scanning. But I think you'll get the idea of how it actually works in terms of what we do. So the icons that you see is inventory, production, location transfer, that's the bin location transfer, orders, purchase orders, and data transfer is just for maintenance, just to transfer data back and forth. So let me just jump into inventory, and I'll show you how we do inventory. So I'm going to switch screens so that you see how we would do it if we were to use SAGE300. So what you have on the screen now is actually SAGE300. So in the SAGE300 world, we have the ability to export information directly from SAGE300 because Sage gives us the SDK that allows us to do that. So in the SAGE300 world, what we do is we have the ability to send information. So what we have here on the screen is just a list of items that would be what we would be counting. So as far as SAGE300 is concerned, we actually do it right from SAGE300. If we're in the BV world, then it's slightly different. Then we use our own interface because BV doesn't give us the ability to go inside and program BV. We've done it on our side. So what we do in the BV world is we still capture the same information, except we pull the information from BV. So the principle is exactly the same. Basically, the idea is we want to get the information of what it is that we're counting. If we're doing a full count, we want a snapshot of everything that our accounting package tells us we have and what we should be counting. If we're doing a cycle count, we want to be able to filter either by item codes, by product codes. And as I said, in the BV world, we do it from basis, pulling this information. In the SAGE300 world, we do it from the SAGE300 interface. The result is the same. Ultimately, what we want is we want to know what it is that we're supposed to count. Now, we have a bunch of reports. So if I did a report right now of what I haven't scanned, it would show me everything that it is that I'm supposed to scan. So once we have this information, so the first step when we do an inventory is basically getting what we call a snapshot or an inventory, frozen inventory image. And the principle is the same if we're doing it manually in the accounting package. Basically, we want to know what it is that we're supposed to count. Once we know what we're supposed to count, then we can send our people out. So I'm going to switch back again to the iPad. So once we know what it is that we're supposed to count, at this point it makes no difference what accounting package we're working with. This is what the users would be doing on the floor. They would actually go to the inventory module and then go on to inventory count. And once they're in the inventory count, they would just go ahead and scan the item. So here, obviously, I have to type it in because it's I can't scan, so I'm just going to do that. Oops. So once I scan the item, what the system will show me is actually will show me what the item is. If the item is lot numbered or serialized, it would actually prompt me to enter it. If not, all I have to do is just enter the quantity. So it's a very simple process of just going ahead and just picking the item. It also picks up the unit of measure. So if I have more than one unit of measure, which both accounting package support, we would automatically, provided that we have a different barcode for the unit of measure, we would be able to capture that. So for example, what this is here is I've entered a quantity of 5 eaches. The 1 in this box here is a conversion factor. So if I had set up a unit of measure for a case, with let's say a case of a dozen, automatically by scanning the UPC code for that case barcode as opposed to the unit barcode, the conversion factor would populate here and the unit of measure would show here, so that when I accept 5 cases, it would put 60 in my count as opposed to 5 eaches, which will put 5 in my count. So again, these are things that the user doesn't need to realize. The user just goes and scans the barcode, and all of a sudden he gets the information on the system that allows him to be able to do their counts as easily as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and accept that. So now it goes on to the next item. So let's say I'm going to, and the one thing actually I can pick here is I can actually scan or enter a bin location. So I'm going to put one here, for example. And then put another item. Now you'll notice when I put the code manually, I actually click on code. So I have the ability to put the part number manually instead of scanning it, so that if the product doesn't have a barcode, we can still use it. So let's do this, and I'm gonna. So as I'm clicking accept, I actually have. Okay, so this item is actually serialized, so it's asking me for or an expiry date. So as I'm clicking accept, it will actually show me here scan to, so I can go into my review screen and I'll be able to see what I've scanned to date. Sorry, it's a little bit choppy, but so I'm just going to click on scan here. So it's showing me what it has, and again, it's an iPad, so I have all the features that the regular iPad, just like if I swipe left, I can delete it. I'm not going to do that, but so if I make a mistake, it's very easy to just go and review my information, just swipe with your finger, hit delete, and then scan it again. So the process makes it very simple. And again, because it's an iPad and most people now have that kind of device, either iPad or iPhones or Android, the training becomes more natural, like swiping and all these are things that we all do now as a second nature. So if this information is good here, I'm just going to hit send. So what I've done here is I've scanned 2 items, and I've done it the slow way, meaning that I actually scan the items and then I put in the quantity. There is what we call a fast way, which I can't do here because I need a scanner, but basically the fast way is to automatically, every time I scan something, and it's just a setting that we can change, every time I scan something, I have the ability to just go through and it'll add 1 automatically. So if the items that you sell are a little larger, or if you have 3, 4, 5 eaches of all the items that you're counting, then you can make it even faster by just activating the fast mode and then just scan, 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 scan. And as fast as you can scan, the iPad will accept it, and it makes a very distinct sound, and the screen turns green if it's a good scan, and it'll turn red if it's a bad scan, so that you're able to know just by the sound and the color and the vibration of the scanner, you're able to know that what you're doing. So again, the whole idea is to make it simple. So I've scanned a few items. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch my screen to go back and review what it is that I've scanned. So if I go back to the Basis desktop program, so now I'm back on the Basis desktop program, and what I can see here is now it's accumulating items as I'm scanning them. So the top 2 items are the 2 that I scanned, and it's showing me a counted quantity of what I scanned because that's what I just did. It's also showing me what my accounting package has on hand. So obviously in this case, I would be going around and scanning more. It doesn't matter how many people are scanning at the same time. This information will accumulate here automatically, and as it gets accumulated, I'll be able to see what it is that I've scanned as I'm scanning through all my people counting. I can now do a report that will show me the scanned item. So if I do the scanned item report, it'll actually show me to date what it is that I've scanned, how many I'm supposed to have, and what my discrepancies are. And there's a setting that will also allow you to show your average or your current cost. And if you do that, you also see the dollar value. So this becomes a very valuable tool as you're going through the system, as you're going through your inventory, to be able to see exactly what it is that you have and what you need to focus on. So if you have a discrepancy of 12 of an item that's worth 10 cents, you may not worry about it. But if you have a discrepancy of 2 of an item that's worth $4,500, obviously you'll be able to see that right away. And in a typical case, depending on the number of items that you have, this report could be up to 50 to 100 pages. The nice thing about this report is that it gets populated and it gets updated as we're scanning. So the closer we are to getting to the end of our process, the closer we are to actually getting a better picture, and the faster we are to be able to respond to a mistake. So for example, if this is my inventory here, and somebody's telling me that we counted everything for this item, and I see that I'm supposed to have 137, and only 12 were counted, I'm able to react right away and see what's going on. Also, because I've captured the location, I'm able to know that the 12 that I've counted are the ones that are in location A1. So if I send my recounters to go and look around and find the items, I'll be able to know that those ones have already been counted and don't need to worry about them. But anything in different location needs to be accounted for. So the process is what I've just showed you. That's basically the inventory process. The key is to really, once we're here, to have as many people as we can counting as fast as possible. And now we'll have the tools to be able to see not only what we count versus what we should have counted and where it is, but we also have the ability to see what we haven't scanned. So if this was my whole inventory, I would be able to do a report. And now the report is going to show me everything else that my accounting package says I'm supposed to have and what I haven't counted. So obviously these are all discrepancies that need to be addressed. So again, with those two reports, the scanned and the not scanned item, we have the tools to be able to have as many people as possible counting as quickly as possible. We have signed statements from our customers that say they can speed up the inventory process anywhere between 25 to 50%. Not necessarily on their first time around, because on the first time around, usually it's more of a cleanup because we find a lot of barcodes don't read or a lot of barcodes have the wrong values. But once you have all your ducks in order and your products barcoded properly, it all depends how well organized you are, obviously, but that's part of the process. We'll help you map your warehouse if you want. We'll help you create barcodes. We'll help you print barcodes. Once you have all your items barcoded and properly located, then doing an inventory becomes a breeze. And because we have the ability to put filters, we can also just do inventories on an ongoing basis. There is very targeted inventory based on what it is that you're counting. So that's about it for inventory. I don't want to spend too much time on it. I mean, I just want to point out that it's simple. It has a lot of reports, so you have the tools of what you can do. And once you're done the inventory, the last step would be, if you're using Business Vision or BD Essentials, you would just export it directly from Basis. So again, in Business Vision, we don't have the ability to program within the program, so we actually do it on the background. And so to update this inventory here, all I would have to do is just export to BV. And what he would do here, he would create a receipt for the variances. So in this case, I have 12 that I counted, and I have 137, so I have a variance of minus 125. So we would actually create a receipt for minus 125. And while I'm talking about variances, I just want to specify that that's all we're upgrading is the variances, so that if I did go ahead and sell 10 of these before I uploaded, my variance would still remain the same. So it doesn't really matter if I don't have to export the inventory as soon as it's done. If we're doing it from SAGE300, it's slightly different, and I'm just going to point that out. So from SAGE300, when we're doing the inventory, instead of sending it back from Basis, we're just going back to SAGE300 and bringing it back in based on the location. So again, just slightly different process, but the key is that the information is the same and the tools and everything else remains the same. So it really doesn't matter which program you use as far as we're concerned. We just have the ability to do it from both. I just want to illustrate just because we have both groups on the call. So I'm going to move on. If you have any questions on inventory, feel free to type them into the little chat window, and I'll try to answer them. But what I'll do now is I'll just go on and show you some of the other functionality. So let me just switch back. Actually, let's go in here. So let's do order entry. So the order entry process always begins in your accounting package. So the orders are created in your accounting package, whether it's again Basis or SAGE300. If you're doing them in BD Essentials, you have to pull them from BD Essentials, in BV. You have to pull them from BV to bring them into Basis. If you're doing them in SAGE300, then automatically when you finish an order in SAGE300, we've modified SAGE300 so it prompts you to send the order to Basis. So you just click OK, and then all the orders will be sent in Basis. Again, different philosophy based on the development, based on the tools that were given. So once the orders are in Basis, then they become visible for the scanner. So I have an order here, for example, this order on the top here for Acme Plumbing. I'm going to go ahead and ship a few items. So this acts as a dashboard where all the orders are actually visible here. We also have the ability to assign who we want to send the orders to. So if we had multiple pickers, we could target which picker would pick which orders. Typically what we do is we modify the crystal report that comes out of your accounting package to add a barcode to it, so that the easiest way to load the order onto the scanner is just to actually scan the order number directly off to the report. Let me go back onto my iPad here. So now I'm back here. If I am to ship an order, I go to my order module. And as I said, if we had modified the crystal report to add the order, we just would scan it from here where it says order number. I don't have that, so I'm just going to type it. And then once I scan it, the order would be extracted from the database, and it would show on here. So I could have multiple orders here. I'm only going to work on this one here. So now that I click on this order, I can see I'm within the order now. So within the order, I have the ability to see what the items are. Again, this becomes like an electronic packing slip. I'm able to see what's being ordered. It's waiting for me to scan an item here. I can move over and see more information on the item. what the quantity and everything else. But typically what we would do here is we would just scan the barcode, and as soon as I scan the barcode, it would show me what is the quantity that's ordered, and it's waiting for me now to enter the quantity that I've received. Just like in the inventory, we also have the ability to capture the information automatically. So we have a setting that would make it go what we call fast mode, where again here you would scan one at a time, and as soon as you scan it, this would actually update the system. I don't have that, so I'm just going to go ahead and put one manually here. So I've put 2 on here. Now this item is actually lot number, so it opened the secondary screen where it's waiting for me to scan a lot number, and it wants to know a quantity. So I've just put a quantity of 1. So what happens as soon as I scan the order, as soon as I start adding the item, the screen would actually be a little more friendly. It'll actually change color to show me that this order is now being started to process. So the fact that it's in yellow is telling me that I've already picked something from this order, but I haven't picked the whole quantity. Let's pick the other one. So on this one here, I only have 3. So I'm going to go ahead and do my 3 here. So in this case here, this one was not lot numbered, so he just added the 3 directly on the order. And this one, the difference, because I only had 3 and I did scan 3, it's those prompts are because I'm doing it manually, obviously. If I had a barcode scanner, this would all be automated. So right now it's showing me that this item is completed and this item is not completed. So it's a very easy way for the picker again, and it's sound activated and it's color coordinated so that you can see as soon as you do something. On the left here, it's also showing me the location where I'm supposed to pick it from. So the location process is actually something that we follow through all the way from inventory count all the way to shipping. What we do is when we do our inventory count, we capture the location as I did in my example before. As soon as we capture our inventory count, what it's doing is that it's going to update basis to tell them this item, we have so many in this location. And we can have it in as many locations as we want. Unfortunately, both BV and SAGE300 do not support more than 1 location, so we keep that in our own tables. So there is no need for us to have the products. Basically, what we have in BV or SAGE300 is we have the total. In Basis, we don't only have the total, but we also have the breakdown. So by definition, we've assigned this location as a primary location, so that's where my order is being picked from. If for some reason I don't have enough here, I have an ability here to click check location, and it would show me all the location for the item. We just pick one here. So that gives me the ability to see, based on the item that I'm supposed to ship, how many where it is. So by picking the item and clicking on check location, it would show me all the different locations where the item was supposed to be. Now, when I did my inventory, I didn't complete it. So the process normally would have been to complete my location, to complete my inventory and tell the system where all my locations are. And that becomes what I call our reset point. So when we do inventory, we're able to know where all our bins are, where all our locations are. And then as I'm going through and I'm shipping it, I'm able to see where things are. So it just makes it easier again. I'm able to scan the product. I'm able to tell it where I'm picking it from. And if I'm not picking it from that location, I can pick a different location. The whole idea here is that I want to update my tables to tell him that I shipped 3 of that wastebasket out of that location, so that if I was doing location tracking, I would be able to update my dynamic counts within my location so I know exactly what it is that I have. So let's say that's our order here. I'm just going to go on to tools here, and I'm going to sync that order. So these are some of the settings that we have. I'm not going to go through them, but the only one that really I mentioned is the auto accept, where every time you scan it would automatically accept. And the settings are very easily accessible. We just flip the screen and it comes. So it's easy to do things. We have other settings like prevent order shipping. Anyway, I'm not going to go through them. That's something that's a little more advanced. So let's just sync the order back to the server. So now that I've sent this order back, let's say this is all I can ship to this. I'm going to ship it back as completed. Let's go back and look at my dashboard here so I can see what. So I'm going to send this order. I'm going to tell the server that I've completed. That's all I can ship today. So now when I go back to my dashboard, let me just switch screen again. Okay, so I'm back onto my dashboard. So now that I've sent that order, automatically the system has colored this order green to tell me that yes, this order was completed, it's ready to be processed. If I look at the bottom here, the item that I shipped complete, I have 3 and I shipped 3. That one is all green. The one that I had 10 and I only shipped 1, it's going to be yellow. So it shows me again here very easily that I haven't shipped my whole order. If it was over shipping, it would be red. I also have the ability to do what we call a check scan. This would actually show me for every scan exactly what was actually scanned. So I'm able to see who scanned it, when. I'm able to see the lot numbers, and if there was a mistake, I can still correct it here. Because we're in our own database here, we haven't affected our accounting package at this point yet. We're only doing this operation within our program, and if we're done here, again in Business Vision, we just hit upload. In SAGE300, we would go back in SAGE300 and just say finish the order, and then that information would actually be passed back to the accounting package. So this item would be committed. This item would also be committed to 1. If the item was pre-committed, it would actually back order the difference. And in this case, because this item was lot numbered, it would actually assign the lot number. Now, in Business Vision does not support lot number. So when I talk about lot number, the only way to work in Business Vision with lot number is if you use an add-on called BV Essentials, which does support lot number. And we fully support BV Essentials and Business Vision and SAGE300. So that's the order process. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in. I don't see any questions, so hopefully you're still all awake and I'm keeping you entertained. So I'm going to go now into the purchase order process. The purchase order process is actually very, very similar. What we do in the purchase orders, and I'm not going to go through the whole process, but all I want to mention is it's exactly the same thing. The purchase orders would be created in SAGE300 or in Business Vision. They would be exported either automatically from SAGE300 or by being imported from Business Vision. Once the purchase orders are within our software, within our databases, then they really are completely separate from BV or SAGE300. Everything we do is in parallel, and once we're finished the process, again, we send it back. So I'm just going to go back onto the scanner just to very briefly show you. I won't go through the whole thing other than to say that it's identical to the sales order. So from here, I would go into purchase orders. Within the purchase orders, again, we would modify the report to put the purchase order as a barcode. We would scan the purchase order. It would show up. The only difference here is we would receive it. We also have the ability to check the locations. In this case, this is obviously we're putting it away, so we need to know the location of similar products so that we can group them together if we decide to do so. If we don't decide to do so, that's fine as well. We can do that. We just have to make sure that we specify where we're putting them so that we can update our location table to make sure that it all makes sense in terms of where we're putting stuff. So the purchase order process is very similar. One difference that we have in the purchase order that we don't have in the sales orders is we have the ability to print barcodes. So the actual barcode printing module allows you to either pick a purchase order. Just trying to find one that has more than one item. Okay. So it allows you to pick a purchase order. We print barcodes directly to a Zebra printer or a Datamax printer. The actual printing process is specific to your needs. So one of the things that we do when we first set up with you is we decide based on the model of printer that you have or that you are willing to purchase and the size of the labels that you need and the content of the label. We actually create a template that's specific to you. So for every of our customers, very few have similar labels. Depending on your needs, depending on what you want on the label, depending on the size of the product, depending on whether you just want one or more label, we actually customize a specific template that then can be sent from basis. So that's a little bit of a complicated process, but we do that for you. That's part of the install, so you don't have to worry about that. As far as you're concerned, all you have to do is, if you're printing barcodes for your purchase order, the idea is we want you to be able to see what's on your purchase order, and just by selecting to print everything and hitting print, based on the printer and the model of the label that you've decided, it would print barcodes for every single item on the purchase order. So the whole idea is to give you the tool. So we have the ability to print barcodes not only from purchase order, but also from the inventory module. On the inventory module, it's slightly different. On the inventory module, you would actually put the beginning of a part number, for example, and say you want to print all the items you want to print all items that begin with A14, for example. So again, the process is very simple. Once we've done our work to set it up, the user will just specify what they want to print labels from, which labels they want to print, how many they want to print. There's a whole bunch of options if you want to print the lot number, the expiry date, the receipt date, the serial number. I mean, we keep adding more and more based on requirements from our customers. But again, these are very simple. Just check what you want and then hit print. So as far as the system is concerned, in order for you to print labels, it's very simple. So if you have a requirement to print labels, you can do it either from the inventory module or from the purchase order module. So typically, when you get started, if your products are not all labels, we suggest that either you get the label, if they're barcoded already, the ideal situation is to get the barcodes from your supplier so we can import them into the system. If not, then you have the ability to print labels directly from our software. Once you've actually made sure that everything is barcoded, then the next step would be to make sure that any incoming POs would have all the labels printed, and that's why we have the ability to do that right from the PO based on the PO. And it would be the same label, so that the key is to make sure that once you're started in the labeling world and making sure everything is barcoded, we don't want it to fall apart after the 2 or 3 months implementation when everything is good. 2 months later, if you haven't barcoded everything, then we're back to square one. So it's important to make sure that once you embark into that path, to make sure everything is barcoded. And I may be talking to people that are not really requiring that. All your products may already be barcoded, but I don't know, so I'm just mentioning it. We also have the ability to print barcoded shelf labels. That's if you're going to keep track of your locations. Again, the label itself has to be customized based on your requirements, the shelf size, how big you want it, what kind of layout that you have in your warehouse. But again, once you have it, it's as simple as just putting a shelf number and hitting print. Again, it all depends on the template. So this is the template that we create. So we'll create for you a template for the shelf and a template for the label itself. And once you have that, then it's just a matter of printing your labels, making sure everything is barcoded. So I've covered the inventory, I've covered the order, I've covered the purchase order, I've touched a little bit on label printing. Let me just go briefly into the location transfer. The location transfer is something that we very, very strongly believe in, because in a lot of our cases, we have customers that will do everything just based on their they'll buy the program just to be able to track location. So for example, I have this item here. I can see, so this screen here is a little bit complicated, and that's usually people get used to that, not right off the bat, but I like to point it out just because this screen here has a ton of information. What it shows me here, it shows me every item, and I'm able to choose and to isolate that item. And based on the item, I'll see, if I select an item, I'll see all the items that I have within the 3 different warehouses or locations, as Sage calls them. I'll be able to see not only what I have, I'm able to see the total that I have, and I'm able to see where they are. So dynamically, we keep track of all the location and where everything is. And then we're able to see that anywhere within our program and within the iPad itself. So on the left is my total. On the right is my breakdown. On the bottom is what we call an audit trail. This is actually every single time an item gets scanned, it gets recorded on the screen. So I'm able to track back based on the item number. So for example, I here, that there is different types of operation. I is telling me that the item was inventoried on that date. T is a transfer. This is where we transferred it to. This is where it came from. BP is actually a production. If it was a sales order or PO, it would be a different type of items here. The key is really we're able to see everything that has to do with a specific item, and we're able to recalculate based on the movement of that item. So if we were trying to find something, we have the information, because what we do is every time an item is scanned, we keep track of it. From the day that you start using the system, every single time an item is scanned, we actually keep track of it. So let me go on the scanner just to show you how the actual transfers work. So I'm switching screen again. Okay, so on the scanner, first of all, within my inventory, if I'm looking for something, I have the ability to just scan an item. So that's from the secondary menu in my inventory called Location and Prices. What this allows me to do, okay, we have a question from Matt. Go ahead, Matt. Let me just keep going on until I see the question. So what this allows me to do is I can go into my inventory item lookup, and I can scan an item, and it'll show me all the location where this item is located. I can scan the location, and it'll show me where everything is supposed to be. And then when we go into an order or a PO, again, we can see this location. So let me just go and show you the actual transfer itself. I don't see the question, Glenda. Is there a question somewhere? Or?
It's in the question pane.
Okay. Sorry, I don't see it.
Okay, that's fine. Matt needs to know if do they need barcode numbers for everything we sell. We often resell custom-made parts for one-off orders.
Actually, that's a very good question, and I usually cover that, and I forgot to do, so I'm glad Matt asked for it. Basically, both SAGE300 and Business Vision support what's called UPC alternate. That would be a unique barcode number for that item. What we use is either the UPC alternate or the part number. So let me go back to my inventory, to my barcode system here. When I have barcode, when I want to print barcode, I have the option to print the part number. So just to track back a little bit, basically what a barcode is just an identifier. I can have a part called ABCD, and I can print a barcode that just says ABCD. So if I pick to print that barcode and hit print part number, the barcode will actually simply be a rendition of the part number itself. We use a barcode font to represent it. So if every part is unique, then obviously you wouldn't want to have to create a barcode. Whatever part number you've assigned to the product, we can use that part number and print it as a barcode. The scanner will actually recognize either a part number or it'll also recognize a barcode number. So if the barcode is a UPC code that's been assigned, so for example, let me just track back a little bit. Let's say, for example, you sell Coca-Cola cans. Obviously, Coca-Cola has a UPC code that they'll apply to the product because they're required to do so for their customers. So in their case, they would see the barcode and scan the barcode. If you're selling those Coca-Cola cans and you get the barcode from your supplier, you would enter that as a UPC alternate code, whether you're using the SAGE300 or Business Vision. There is a place for that. And then our program will get it from there, so that in this case, if we're scanning the can of Coca-Cola, we will recognize, let's say, for example, you call that item in your own code number, you call it CC1, for example, for that can. So the CC1 would have a UPC code that's been assigned by Coca-Cola that would allow you to have when you scan this. Ultimately, what we need is we just need the part number. We don't really care about the barcode number. The barcode number is just an identifier that allows us to cross-reference to the part number. So if you didn't have that UPC code from Coca-Cola, then you could just have a barcode that would print that says CC1, and we would find that part number. So anytime the scanner is used, actually, it recognizes the barcode. There's three different ways that it recognizes a barcode. One is straight part number. So if the part number is printed as a barcode using a barcode font, it would actually be able to recognize it. And when we install our program, it automatically installs a barcode font. So you can use that barcode font on your packing slip, on whatever else you want to use it, and we'll show you how. But the other way to recognize the product, we just have to have the actual UPC codes. And if that's used as a UPC alternate, then again, our program will recognize it. The last way that we actually recognize barcode, I don't know if any of you guys are in the medical industry or in the food industry, more and more there is a standard that has come up that has a barcode that has multiple pieces of information, such as your lot number, expiry date, part number. That's actually coming in very strong. So we support that as well. So either of those three types of barcodes will be recognized, either your part number or UPC code, or I can't think of the name, it'll come back to me, but it's a new UPC code barcode that is used in the medical industry. That's basically one long barcode. They use that in the food industry as well, where they have, in the food industry they call it the catch weight barcode, where you have the weight, you have the part number, you have the lot number, and the expiry date all within the same barcode. So we can modify there's some settings that will allow you, when you scan something, to automatically find the information within that multiple piece of information barcode. But 90% of the people will just use their part number. Unless you have UPC code already on the product, then it's easier because then you would get the UPC code from your supplier. So let me now go into the location transfer module. Let me just make sure I have the right screen here. Yes, I do. Okay, so the location transfer module just allows you to create what we call transfer farms. So you'd actually create a transfer, and you'd enter the item number, you'd enter the part number, and then you can scan multiple items. This is basically to do one of two things, to either move them from location A to location B, meaning from bin location A to bin location B within your warehouse, or to do a warehouse transfer. So let me just do one from here. So we create a transfer which will allow us to have multiple items onto the same transfer. And this is actually useful for companies that have more than one location. They would actually go through and scan a bunch of items in their, let's say, in their Mississauga location, and then send it to the Waterloo location. So I'm going to pick it from a specific location. If it's lot numbered, again, I'm going to pick the lot number, and then I'm going to send, let's say, 25. Now, I'm not paying attention to the location, which is not a good idea, because what would happen there is actually create negative quantity in the locations, but it's just a bin, so I'm not too worried about it. So I've actually created a transfer. I only put one item, but now I can go to that transfer, and I'll see that that transfer exists on my, that's what we call the transfer to. So from here, the item that I'm transferring, I can now select it, and I can decide whether I'm just moving it to a different location or whether I'm sending it to a different warehouse altogether. So in this case, I'm just going to move it to a different location. Whatever. And here I have the option to send the whole quantity or part quantity, because I picked 25 to send from here. I could have just said, okay, I want to put 20 here and 5 here. It all depends how your warehouse is organized. Let's just, we send the whole thing. So now that I do this, as soon as I'm completed that and I send it back to my server, I'll be able to go back to the desktop, and now the part will have been moved from that one location to the other. So again, the whole idea is to make sure that when it comes to bin location, that would only happen within our software. If it's a warehouse transfer, then it actually would go, once we're done the warehouse transfer, we can create a report, and then based on, and then we can also update the inventory. In SAGE300, it creates an actual transfer, so it moves it from one location or warehouse to another. In Business Vision, it actually does the transfer for you, and if the item doesn't exist in the warehouse that it's going to, as far as Business Vision is concerned, we'll actually create it. SAGE300 doesn't allow you to do that, so you have to have the item existing in both warehouses so that you can do that. It's just a different principle, but the bottom line is that once we've created the transfers, the key is to just be able to completely monitor them and make sure that we know where the information is. Now, as far as that's concerned, once we've done that, we're able to, once we do inventory, we fix all the transfers anyway. So it doesn't really matter where we're, let me just go back to the other screen. So the locations are, they're not carved in stone as with some other software. Basically, we allow you to capture them, we allow you to move them around, but the key is that once you're going to do a physical inventory, we're going to reset them. We're going to clean up all the old location, and you're counting it and you're telling the system where it is. So an inventory is basically, that's what I said before, a reset point. So now I've done my transfer. Now I'm back onto my screen here where I can see my locations, and I can see that item that I just transferred. It was warehouse 1. It actually puts it into this location that I call TYES for some reason, and he took it out of this location A1. And because they were not the same, now I have a minus 25 and a 25. So obviously that wouldn't be a good idea. And there is a setting to warn you when you do that. But again, the whole idea is to just make sure that you're able to do it. So that's basically our location transfer. So as I said, we could have moved it from one location, which is a bin location, to another, or we could have moved it in a different warehouse. Moving it in a different warehouse is quite popular with people that also have trucks on the road. So if you have trucks on the road, you're able to transfer as long as your items are set up in the different warehouses. For example, in the repair industry, like the direct energy and all that, they use our software to transfer the goods that they're putting into their trucks. And then as they go on to the customers to use the parts that they would be using for repairs, they'd be able to scan them directly onto an order and then create an order out of their truck warehouse, which would keep a live inventory into their truck warehouse. So it can be pretty powerful if used from A to Z. So that's the location transfer module. So I've basically covered everything that I wanted to cover. Inventory, orders, purchase orders, label printing, and then the location transfers. As I said, the production is just designed to capture information, and the production right now does not work with SAGE300. It does work with the production module of DD Essential. So it's pretty specific. If you have needs for that, please ask the question, and I'm happy to go into it. But because it was more about business vision and SAGE300, I'm not going to cover it in this webinar. I'd like to open the floor to questions if anybody has any more questions.
I'll unmute everyone. If you have any questions, please ask.
We have a quiet group today.
Sounds like you covered everything they needed to know.
Mm-hmm.
I will be having Kim follow up with everybody that's on the webinar just to see if they have any further questions. So I guess with that, we're done for today. Thank you so much, Albert.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.